And thank you so much for joining us here on At Issue. I'm H. Wayne Wilson. There is an effort underway in the state of Illinois to change the way that districts are drawn, political districts. Some of us refer to it as gerrymandering, others would say partisan redistricting. And this effort is underway to change that, so an independent commission would be drawing those lines. If this organization is successful, you will be voting on a referendum in November of next year, 2016, to approve or disapprove of an independent commission drawing the lines rather than politicians. To discuss this particular issue, I've invited Cindy Canary to join us. Cindy is the executive director of the Independent Map Amendment. Thank you so much for being here. And also a board member of the Independent Map Commission is Brad McMillan, and he joins us as well. And both of these are return people in various capacities. Brad, of course, is at the Institute for Principled Leadership at Bradley University. And Cindy has been on the show before as well, but in her capacity then as the
head of the Campaign for Political Reform.
So thank you for joining us. Let's start with a little bit of history. This is not the first attempt to put a referendum on the ballot. It's the third attempt. What happened the first two times?
Well, the first time around, it got off to a late start. It was underfunded, and it just didn't get the signatures. The second time was far more successful, but when the initiative got to circuit court, it was felt that it was drafted too broadly. Judge Mary Mikva wrote a very detailed decision. And, as a result of those two efforts, we've got a whole base of knowledge on best practices now.
So what makes you more confident that the third time will be the charm?
H was able to work with our fantastic legal team in drafting the constitutional amendment this third time, and we looked at every word, every sentence, looked at Judge Mikva's decision, and we're very confident that the constitutional amendment falls within the parameters, the legal parameters, to bring a citizen-led constitutional amendment. So we're very confident that it'll pass legal muster with the courts. We're well organized this time. We're well ahead of where we were last time on gathering signatures. We're checking those signatures against the voter registration database to make sure that they're valid. We've got an army of volunteers throughout the state that are working very hard to help us with this effort.
Later in the program, we're going to show you a video of the experience out in Arizona, which is a state that did approve an independent commission, and it was a subject of a U.S. Supreme Court ruling this past June, and we'll show that momentarily. But first, I want a little bit more history here. In 2014, there were 137 House and Senate seats up for re-election in the state of Illinois. 82 of those were uncontested, and of the remaining races, only one incumbent lost. Is that necessarily a bad thing?
I think it's a bad thing when people don't get choices. We often decry the fact that voters don't participate, that we don't have higher numbers. But when we don't have contested elections, we're really just asking voters to be a plebiscite. So a lack of competition, I think, is a very bad thing. And good incumbents will and should win if they are representing their constituents, and they're doing a good job, and they're responsive to their districts.
California back in 2010 passed a constitutional amendment to allow an independent redistricting commission, much like the one we're trying to advocate for in Illinois. And they redrew the maps. And in 2012, there were 50% totally newly elected state legislators sent to the state capitol in California. And when that happened, they all of a sudden started to pass public policy to help the fundamental issues. They were in as bad of financial health as Illinois, and now they have a balanced budget and a budget surplus. So what this initiative will do is provide a fair, more competitive election system. You'll see new people want to run for public office, and I think that's healthy for our democracy.
A footnote on what Brad is saying, that he's absolutely right about all of these new people. But California, before the Independent Commission, was lean Democratic. After the Independent Commission, it still had a Democratic majority. It just had different Democrats. It had more independent thinkers and some new voices. So it's not always a complete, shift in what the voters want. It sometimes is some fine tuning, the kind of things you'll see in a primary.
Well, and I want to add to that. The independent map amendment is a very bipartisan, even nonpartisan effort. If you look at who's on the governing board that I serve on, it includes former Republican Governor Jim Edgar, but it also includes Bill Daley, former Lieutenant Governor Sheila Simon. We have a lot of minority groups represented on the board. It's a very broad-based coalition. So this is about good government. This is about what's in the best interest of the people, the citizens of the state of Illinois. And so that's why we're working so hard to try to see it happen.
One of the complaints that we hear is that when politicians design these districts, that it's like they're selecting their voters as opposed to the voters electing them. Will this new, if it's approved, will this limit that to an extent?
Oh, very definitely. If the Independent Commission is put into place, the commissioners will draw the map based on demographic and voting rights data, based on community input, but they won't look at political data. They won't look at how neighborhoods are registered block by block or sometimes house by house, which is what happens now, so that you can put the most Democrats or the most Republicans into a district. That will be off the table.
If you look at, this is from the Paul Simon Public Policy Institute, and Cindy was the co-author along with Kent Redfield, who is a emeritus professor down at the University of Illinois Springfield. And in it are maps that show that in order to maintain a democratic, because it's a democratically drawn map right now, they've taken Chicago and they have these spokes coming out into the suburbs.
Tentacles, you might say.
So I understand that they're, you said they're looking block by block to look at voting records. Are you confident that a commission won't be, because there's something called community of interest. You have to pay attention to community of interest. If there's a Latino community, if there's a African American community, if there's a community of the city of Bloomington, for instance, how difficult is that going to be?
It is a very important thing. Now, that's federal law. That's the Federal Voting Rights Act that says that we have to, where we can, make representative districts for African Americans, Latinos, to ensure that representation is allowed. The Independent Commission will have the same legal obligation, but they won't start from a map where they're trying to maximize partisanship. They will start by trying to maximize representation and make sure that they are in compliance with the Voting Rights Act.
And this is a really important point, H, because we know that our opponents are going to argue that this will not protect minority voting rights. I served on the Illinois Reform Commission, which was kind of the impetus for all of this over 6 years ago, and there was 100% unanimous consensus that we wanted to fully protect minority voting rights. If you looked what happened in California again after the Independent Redistricting Commission did the new maps there, it actually enhanced minority representation in that state. So the notion that this reform will hurt minority representation is absolutely false. And you will still see, because of the need to comply with the Voting Rights Act, you will still see some oddly shaped districts in Chicago to create African American districts or Hispanic districts or maybe even Asian
Down the road,
American districts. But we as a coalition are fully in favor of that. We believe that is part of good democracy as well. But what you're going to see downstate, because you don't have the same demographics, is you're going to see a lot more squares and a lot more rectangles when it comes to state legislative districts. and they're going to be much fairer, much more competitive, and we think will lead to better government.
There are people who are afraid that if this passes, that, for instance, Peoria, which has 2 state senators right now, might lose one of those state senators. There'd only be one, and other communities might face that same situation.
I don't think that's true, H, because again, the fundamental premise of redistricting is based on population, and our metropolitan area has enough population to warrant 2 state Senate districts. So we're still going to have 2 state Senate districts. The question is whether the boundaries that the independent commission would come up with would be drawn north-south as they currently are, or whether they determine from a geographic perspective that it makes more sense to draw them east-west. If you drew 2 state Senate districts east-west in the Peoria area, I would argue that you would have 2 competitive state Senate districts that either a Republican or a Democrat would have a viable chance for. So I still think we're going to have 2 state senators in Peoria. It's just the way the districts will be drawn.
Let's take a look at the experience out in Arizona, and then we'll have a chance to talk more about the details of how that might apply to the state of Illinois.
There was a citizen initiative called Proposition 106, where citizens banded together, Republicans, Democrats, people of all stripes, decided they didn't like how redistricting was being done at the time and wanted to have an independent commission draw these lines instead of the legislature. It's a commission made up of 5 members, 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and 1 independent chair. There's a number of criteria that the commission needs to consider when it's drawing those maps. Some of those are federally mandated criteria, like complying with the Voting Rights Act and equal population requirements. And then also there's a number of criteria that are in our state constitution that require us to consider things like communities of interest, competitiveness. We also try to follow city, town, county lines and boundaries. That's one of the criteria we also follow. So it's a balancing act. You have to consider and weigh all of those criteria equally. The commission gets a lot of advice from legal counsel as well as a technical mapping consultant. And the commission then takes in all that information. And then an important component, of course, is the public. We had public comment at all of our meetings. The Arizona legislature brought a suit against the Arizona Independent Redistricting Commission, saying that the commission does not have the authority, based on the Elections Clause in the U.S. Constitution, to draw congressional district lines. That case went all the way to the Supreme Court. They heard oral arguments in March, came out with their opinion in June, and ultimately upheld the constitutionality of redistricting commissions. It kind of all came down to, what does the term legislature in the Elections Clause of the U.S. Constitution really mean? And fortunately, a majority of the justices decided that legislature equals not only the representatives who are elected, but the people themselves.
What did that decision by the U.S. Supreme Court last June mean to your effort?
I think it gave us a huge boost in terms of both creating more public awareness and legitimizing this issue, and having an opinion from the Supreme Court that Justice Ginsburg wrote that actually decried the notion of legislators drawing their own districts and talking about how essential representation was to our democracy.
You know, the other thing that the Supreme Court decision said, H, that was quite heartening to our coalition is they went back to the basic premise that the source of all governmental power comes from the people.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what this effort is about. It's a citizen-led petition drive to get a constitutional amendment on the ballot. This is the one thing we in Illinois, that the citizens can do to try to improve our state government. And so we think it is going to give us a huge boost when it comes to the legal challenges that we know we'll ultimately face.
Brad mentioned that downstate Illinois might see some more rectangular-shaped districts. You look at the Arizona map that we saw there in that report, those weren't rectangular or square or circular by any stretch of the imagination. Why and I'm just going to make an assumption that the public thinks, okay, these have to be compact and contiguous. That's the definition, and of equal size, I mean, a population. Those aren't compact.
Well, I think we need to unpack that a little bit. First of all, they have to be contiguous. You can't start a district in Peoria, drop it off, and finish it up in Carbondale. But more importantly than the compactness is they have to be substantially equal in population. That is the primary driver. That's in our state constitution. That is U.S. federal law. And so when we look at the Arizona map and we see all those little districts in the middle, that's Phoenix. It's an area that's just been exploding in population. When we think about Illinois, one of the things that this commission will have to think about is Chicago has been losing population. It's been moving out into the suburbs. It's those kinds of adjustments is why we redistrict, to make sure that everybody has the same representation.
Let's look at some of the complaints that have been lodged against the current system. Transparency, number one. The claim is it's not transparent. Does it have to be transparent?
Well, this is extremely important. The drawing of our state legislative districts, who's going to represent us in the Illinois General Assembly. I think most citizens would want the process to be open and transparent, and a process where there would be opportunity for feedback before the maps are drawn and for feedback after the maps are drawn. Mm-hmm. Currently, none of that happens in Illinois. It's a few powerful politicians behind closed doors looking at your voting history and Cindy's voting history and my voting history and drawing these districts completely for political purposes. It doesn't comport with fundamental democratic principles. And transparency is one of those fundamental principles. We have the Open Meetings Act for reasons. We want our public business to be done with transparency. And this is one of the areas where there is no transparency.
There have been no efforts to...
In 2010, kind of parallel with the effort that Brad was involved with, that the league spearheaded to put a redistricting initiative on the map, the state actually did ultimately introduce a bill called the Illinois Voting Rights Act that talks to transparency, but I think it's important to unpack that a little bit because we're talking about real transparency, and this talks about having to have hearings before a map is drawn. And it's certainly good to get input ahead of time, but the public needs to be able to look at that map and say, wait a minute, you've bisected our community, or in fact, our town extends over the river, or whatever it is. So we need some real public involvement, and that bill didn't allow it.
We mentioned at the start of the show that the only races that really existed were in primaries, and that kind of leads to ideological extremes in some cases. Will this effort limit that opportunity?
Well, the political scientists in California, and I keep going back to that example, but after the redistricting reform, and there was also primary reform in California, so those two things, but they've measured it, and the amount of extremism in the California legislature has lessened significantly since these reforms were passed. So I do believe these kinds of reforms will lead to less extremism down in Springfield.
And more compromise, maybe?
Hopefully.
And that's how they got their balanced budget, I assume.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you're expecting a challenge.
Yes, a legal challenge, yes.
Before it ever goes to the voters, you're expecting a legal challenge to this. You have a history that says we know what we're doing better this time.
That's right.
How are you going to, and let's say you survive the legal challenge, you're still going to have a challenge in convincing voters, because those who are opposed to this change would say, we're going to spend dollars to convince the voters that this is a bad idea. Do you have the wherewithal?
Well, you're absolutely right. And I mean, the other thing is Illinois voters are not used to voting on binding referenda. I mean, we're not like California. We don't often go to the bottom of our ballots. We have been fortunate in that we have raised millions of dollars from a very diverse group throughout the state, some very large contributors, but also lots and lots of citizens who are going to our website and sending, whatever they're comfortable with. We will very much have to continue raising money at this pace, but I'm confident we can do it. Once we get on the ballot, I think we will have another huge boost in terms of money coming in, again, when we win in court. So the money has been coming. It hasn't been a problem. In fact, this has been a subject that people very much get. We haven't done sort of the kind of broad political fundraising you sometimes see, but the money's been coming in because we know we're going to have to run a campaign, and we're going to approach this very seriously. We're going to do a lot of public education, but we're going to match them television for television.
You've been through this several times now. Both of you have. One of the arguments is that we're not attracting enough people to run for office because it's so nasty anymore. It's vicious when you get the Democratic and the Republican parties that are going to spend big money on certain districts and go after you. You understand it's going to get vicious for this referendum.
Well, absolutely. The powers that be in the state want to keep control. I've been deeply involved in this for 6 years, and I've seen all of their tactics. We're very well aware of the way they're going to try to argue against this. But as Cindy said, I think we're going to raise millions of dollars. We're going to match them campaign commercial for campaign commercial. I think if we have a campaign commercial with Jim Edgar and Bill Daley sitting side by side saying, enough is enough, it's time to turn Illinois back in a better direction, we need your support on this amendment, I think that's going to be pretty influential on Illinois voters.
It's awfully hard for anyone who lives in the state of Illinois right now in 2015 to say this state is working. It is not working by any metric you can imagine. And so, in a certain way, the powers that be have made our case for us. Our state's in gridlock. We need change.
We're in the closing minutes of the program, and we've talked a lot about a lot of different issues, but what is the strongest argument you have to the public to say, yes, we need to have redistricting commission approved?
The one that people understand immediately is you should be choosing your representatives. They should not be choosing you.
Illinois is in a mess. We need to turn the state around, and this is the most important reform that can return good government to Illinois.
Do you think that this, because I'm hearing your argument, and it sounds like it's a magic bullet, and this is not something that's going to happen overnight, is it?
Oh,
in your estimation?
No.
You don't expect.
But I think it's a huge piece of the puzzle of getting a fair, competitive election process put back in Illinois. And the thing that I'm most excited about, is that hopefully we'll have new leaders emerge that will throw their hat in the rings and want to run for public office.
And we saw the Arizona experience, 5-member, 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and a chair. What's the structure of Illinois?
We're talking about an 11-member commission here. It would have Republicans, Democrats, and independents. They would pick their chair. So it is a process that would largely be run through the Auditor General's office to take it out of the hands of the legislature, but to keep it in a place where we can fund it and put some rules in place for it.
So now Representative Martino, who will be the new Auditor General, would have that responsibility under his office.
Right, in a public and open way to set the rules and oversee a process as dictated by this initiative.
And in California H, 30,000 citizens applied to be on their independent commission. And anyone in Illinois can apply under our amendment. And so this really would be a huge sea change in the way things currently are done.
The deadline for your petition process and how many signatures, real briefly?
We need 290,000 valid signatures. We're shooting for 600,000. We're well on our way. We need those petitions in the beginning of May of next year.
Okay.
But we're asking people to get them in as they collect them.
And we thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us. Let me say thank you to Cindy Canary, who is the executive director of the effort to put this on the ballot next November, and to board member Brad McMillan, both of them repeat visitors to the At Issue set. Next week, please join us for another edition of At Issue, when we're going to be talking about, it's the weekend of thanks, so we're going to be talking about programs that actually are doing good in the community. Next time on At Issue.